Today, I'm going to talk about getting through a breakup or possibly a rock bottom. For me, I consider my divorce, it was my rock bottom. I was with somebody for a long period of time, and it came to a day where that person no longer wanted to be together. So, my divorce happened very quickly. I moved out as fast as I could because I was trying to preserve the relationship as much as I could. I went peacefully. I tried to, obviously, a few days of like begging, and then I realized that it was going to get me nowhere. So I moved out. I moved into an apartment with less than 2 weeks. And, my brother and we moved everything. And I think we did it in 2 truckloads. We used both of our trucks, and I moved out. I moved closer to work, and it was quite the shock. I mean, obviously, like I said, somebody you were with for so long and they decide they're no longer in love with you. So I consider my rock bottom. I've dealt with a lot of different types of setbacks, losses, but this was an entirely different form of setback. It was literally turning my life upside down. And at the time, I didn't know what to do. I just knew I needed to take action. Financially, we were not in a place to really be doing this, but you know, it's what you wanted. I respected that, and I knew I had to move forward. I knew I had to take action. And, obviously, for a few days, I was really like, it was, I don't think I ate for really weeks. And after a few days, I knew that like I needed to come up with a plan. So I did. I came up with a plan of action. I reviewed my bills, found an apartment that I could afford, and I took action. I moved, but um, I will say going through something like this can be very hard. It can be very draining. I felt exhausted for months, months upon months. I didn't feel myself. I basically worked, lifted, and slept. And but one of the things that really helped me along the way is, you gotta feel that pain. You gotta live in it. And I think the hardest part of going through something like that is coming home after, like, whether you're with people or you're at work or you're around people, but coming home and that silence is there to greet you. And if you've never dealt with that, I've continued to use this example. Basically, you come in, and that silence is deafening loud. And what I mean by that is it's just you and your thoughts, which can seem very scary. I lived with somebody for almost 15 years, and now here you are on your own again. And it was weird coming home, especially at night. You're coming home, it's dark, and the apartment's dark. I have no dogs now, so I would come home and it was just me and my thoughts. And I did a lot of thinking. And one of the things that got me through, though, was I went on a lot of walks, a lot of drives, a lot of late night drives, a lot of late night rolls through the my apartment complex. There was a pool on site here, and actually, I spent a lot of time just sitting around that pool, just thinking about everything. Really trying to process it, because I feel where a lot of people go wrong in a breakup is they resort to drinking. They go to the bar, or they just kind of, I don't know, they just go out and do crazy things. And I wanted to do the exact opposite. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to process everything, kind of just go through everything and think about what I did wrong, what I did right, regardless if I felt that it was my doing or not, or if I was the reason or not. I knew that I still had to take responsibility to some degree. Obviously, it's not all my, it's not my entire fault, but you do need to take responsibility in situations like this. There's always something you could have done better. So I thought that through. I thought about the man that I was, and I thought about my life and what I needed to change, who I needed to become. I started journaling. I wrote down my thoughts. I wrote down things that I didn't like about myself and things that I wanted to change. And I actually started a dream board in my room. I have a mirror, and I put on sticky notes of basically goals that I would like to see over this next year. And this was in 2025. I knew that this would carry over into 2026, but January rolled around, and I told myself that I will never be at this point ever again in my entire life. This is the last time that I ever feel this bad. And I've made it my goal for 2026 to come back, the rebuild. I say that I found rock bottom, and then I found the basement to rock bottom. And while I was there, I killed off the old me and started back, decided to rebuild, and I would come back stronger, come back better. But I knew that meant working on myself, growing as a person, being stronger mentally, and you can't do that unless are honest with yourself, admit to your flaws, the things that you've done wrong in your life, and how you're going to move forward and how you're going to change those things moving forward. And, another thing that I did is I got myself into therapy. Not that I felt that there was anything wrong with me. I felt that it was good to, you know, process this with a professional. My therapist is great. He's a good dude. And, what I like about him is he tells me, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to process these things with you. I'm there to be for you, be with you through this process. And but the thing about therapy is it goes back to admitting things is you have to be honest. You know, people, especially men, a lot of men will not go to therapy because it's leaving them vulnerable. Or men that do go to therapy, a lot of times where they're not honest in these therapy sessions, which if you're not going to be honest, you're only hurting yourself. All you're doing is, the therapist doesn't really know what's going on. You're never going to grow as a person. You're never going to get through this stuff if you're just going to lie to them. And really, you're just wasting your time. You're wasting the therapist's time. So if you're not willing to be honest with them and honest with yourself, then don't even waste your time. Quit going. So be honest in those sessions. If you felt like shit, tell them that. Or, if there was stuff in your marriage that you could have done better, be honest about that. It's not going to get you anywhere by lying. Get a hobby. You know, the gym has always been my one place that I go. And any hardships that I've had to overcome, go to the gym. Grow as a person. The gym has so many benefits more than just physical. It is good for this too. So good for your brain. I'm not gonna lie. There's been times where I've gone to the gym crying, like in the gym crying. There's nobody else there, but like, um, I will say, looking back, like I'm glad I went through that shit. I'm glad that I processed the things that the way that I did. I feel that it helped me. It made this journey so much easier, and I feel that I've learned so much along the way. But it's because I was willing to go through it and take it on the chin like a man and process it like a man. You know, I tried to be respectful through the whole process, even though I feel that I kind of got, my person who I was kind of being twisted of who I was, but whatever. There's nothing you can do about that. But um, yeah, go to the gym, get a hobby. The gym has saved me so many times, and become committed to it. If you're not already committed, become committed to it. So before, when I was married, I lifted at least 4 or 5 times a week. Was doing cardio almost daily, and I took one day off. I was told that this person no longer wants to be married to me. I took the day off. I mean, I barely could function. I went to work, and it was a bad idea. I shouldn't have gone. It was a terrible idea. I was not in a good place mentally to be going to work. I ended up leaving early, but at that time, leaving work early just meant going home, which that wasn't a place I wanted to be either. So, I went to the gym the next day. I went back to the gym, and here we are in April, midway through April, and I haven't missed a day since. Every single day, I've gone to the gym, and I've done cardio nearly every single day. And I have to say, it has done so much for me. It has given me another goal. It's, helped me with my weight loss. I'm over 50 pounds down, and I'm healthier, stronger. My heart's stronger. I went to the doctor yesterday, and they told me that like my blood pressure, and I was like, wow, I've never been at that state. So go to the gym, become active. Um, turn to friends, family, rekindle relationships. Friends and family have done so much for me through this process. They've just been there to talk to. Even I remember I had a friend. I've known this person since I was in kindergarten. He was a neighbor, and he reached out to me. Actually, he texted me, and honestly, like we didn't talk for like 3 or 4 years. It was nothing really. There was really no. We just kind of grew apart, and he reached out to me, and honestly, it like brought me to tears because I was like, wow, this person's meant to be in my life. Because here, this person is reaching out to see how I'm doing. He had heard about it, everything going on. He was my best man at my wedding. So he heard about this, and he reached out to me. And it meant so much to me because it showed how much this person cared for me, even after not speaking for 4 or 5 years. So rekindle those relationships. Start seeing the people that maybe you haven't seen in a while. Get out, be with those people. So, something that I do now is I've gotten really good at making pizza, and I feel like my pizza is pretty close to a restaurant quality pizza. I used to smoke a lot of meat, which where I live now, I can't really have a smoker. So I turned to pizza, and I really focused in on trying to perfect the homemade pizza. And it's been my goal to make it as good as a restaurant, if not better. And it really just started as something that kind of keep me busy, and it's turned into a form of a way to get with people, invite people over, and allow for me to cook for them. And that's something that I've always had a passion for. I love cooking for people. I love sharing the food that I make. It just means so much to me. I've always done that. And for me to be able to do that for friends and family again, because I got away from it for, a couple months there, and I started doing it again, and it made me feel so good to be able to give to those people. That's something that I've always cherished. That's if you come over to my house, I will cook for you. And that also means if you come over and I cook for you, it means you're in, like you've made it. I consider you someone that means a lot to me because I don't just cook for everybody. So it means a lot to me, and that's been a way for me to bring even my family together. I used to host family dinners where I would invite like my parents, my brother, and my it was my mother-in-law at the time. I would invite everybody over, and it would make me feel so good to be able to provide for those people around me that I care about. So I got back to doing that, but also it kept me busy because it made me want to perfect this thing that I decided to start doing and get feedback from those people that are eating it. And Friday night I would come home from work and I started making pizza even for myself, and felt good to be able to start doing things for myself again. And that leads me into the next thing is get used to being by yourself. Going back to where I was saying about your thoughts, coming home and being by yourself and the silence being loud. It's going to be like that for a while. You're going to think about this shit for a while. And that is not going to go away. You are not going to feel okay with coming home and being by yourself for a period of time. But eventually it will get better. It's going to be okay. You have to remind yourself that you are going to get through this. It's going to be okay. And it's okay to be by yourself. Get used to it because you're going to be by yourself for some time. And, you know, just it will reach a point where honestly you will cherish that time by yourself. I say now where I cherish my peace. And if someone affects my peace too much, then they're out. And what I mean by that is my peace means a lot to me. And what my peace means is like I enjoy the quietness of coming home and it being quiet now. It's kind of crazy how it's kind of turned around. Like I enjoy laying on the couch and reading a book by myself. I enjoy going to the gym by myself. The Honestly, it's turned into one of the most motivating things for me is getting up in the middle of the night, 1:30 in the morning, going to the gym by myself, knowing that I'm working on myself, I'm working to a better future, and I'm doing it by myself. Something that I struggled with 8 months ago, here I am. And I look back at the progress that I've made, and I'm truly proud of myself. I've come a long way. It has not been easy. The bills piled up, and I'm actually working two jobs now, and I feel like I have no time to myself. So I really cherish the time that I do have, and I'm really proud of the progress that I've made because I've worked my ass off to get to where I am. Worked really hard, and I've had to process a lot of shit. And at the end of the day, I've had to do it by myself. So don't don't lose sight of where you started and where you're at, and document it. I started journaling. I'm kind of slowing down with it because I feel like I no longer need it, or the type of journaling that I'm doing is just kind of repetitive. Now I just kind of write down my thoughts. If something that like happened or something that a thought that comes to my mind, I write it down on a sticky note and I put it on my mirror. Something motivates me, or maybe something I'm working towards. But I look back at those journal entries from 6 months ago, and just to see the amount of growth that I've had, it just blows me away. But that didn't come easy. That came with me sticking to the plan and taking action in the plan and having faith in myself and in God, and reminding myself that it's going to be okay and you're going to get through this. Not only you're going to get through this, but you're going to come out stronger and better. But you got to be patient because it's not going to happen overnight. But I feel that you have to remind yourself that. And, don't be afraid to share with your friends and family of like where you're at. It's a tough time, but it will get better, and it has gotten better. And honestly, this is the happiest I've been in 8 months, and I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the progress that I've made. It's been a long road, and there for a while I was like, man, shit's never gonna get better. But you know what? It does get better, and I promise you, it will. But you gotta have a plan. You gotta take action. And you gotta stick to that plan. Don't don't stray away from it. A lot of people will tell you like, one of the things that I heard was, "Oh, fuck it. Don't think about her." Or and like, yeah, it's easy for you to say this wasn't your relationship, or you weren't in that relationship for that maybe, that person hasn't been in a relationship for that amount of time. I feel like that's kind of a disrespectful thing to say to someone. Like, no, you do need to think about it. You do need to think about everything, but don't dwell on it. It's okay to think about it. It's okay to think about your old life. Don't dwell on it. Those are now memories, but focus on the future. Focus on what you want, what you will do better, what you are doing better, and push forward. At the end of the day, it all comes down to determination. You got to be determined. You got to want it as bad as you want to breathe. And if you don't, it's not going to change. So adapt, overcome, conquer. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Later.